Welcome to the Making Moves with Mal podcast. In every episode, you'll hear stories from individuals just like you that are trying to make an impact. They'll share their unique journey and some helpful tips that got them to where they are now. You'll hear conversations with people from all walks of life who are trying to make some moves. Now, here's your host, Mal.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Making Moves with Mal. I'm here today with Alexis Delgado. She's going to share her journey with her career right now with entrepreneurship and everything that she's accomplished so far. So thank you for taking the time today to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, a little background. Obviously, we went to the same school. We went to DePaul. But
Blue Demons.
Blue Demons all the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your major was...
business management.
Business management, okay.
Yeah. Originally started as like marketing and then sports marketing because I was all about basketball.
Sports marketing.
I wanted to transition to like a sports agent.
That would have been cool.
I realized it just wasn't the life for me. Like it was a lot of schmoozing and I would have had to move to like LA or something like that. It just wasn't for me. Wow, yeah. So, no.
Intense.
And then I had an aunt that worked in HR and I got to shadow her and that's been my career the last 10 years.
What was it about HR that made you want to pursue that as a career?
Well, I always make the joke of I've been in HR technically since I was like 10. I would translate for my family members about their paychecks, about their benefits. I would go to the job site with some of them and and just communicate with their bosses on just like if they wanted a promotion or something. So I always make that joke of like I've technically been in HR since I was 10.
So you've been living that experience.
Yeah. And then I got to see my aunt work in HR. She worked for a massive organization. She traveled actually internationally.
Nice.
And she would go to Italy, she would go to Germany. And I was like, oh, sign me up. This is what I want to do. Never got overseas, but I made it to New York. I made it to the East Coast a couple times and West Coast for some jobs. But yeah, I just have a passion for just people and like helping them, providing them like the tools to further their careers if they so desire.
Right.
So, I enjoy it. It's fun.
And I think that's a really good transition as to like how you got into real estate too, right? Mm-hmm. So how did that kind of come about? Like what made you?
So I bought my first property 2017. My realtor's going to kill me. And the realtor that I used, she was amazing. I would text her for any and everything and she would tell me how to approach situations. And we would meet up quarterly for lunches and nice. I sent her, some family members that were looking. Well, family and friends that were looking turned out to be 10 to 15 people that she was able to help and find. And then one lunch that we had, she just was like, why don't you do this yourself? Because although I'm sending them stuff, you're on it, you're sending them stuff, you're giving them advice, and they're coming and meeting me way more prepared than any average first-time buyer. She's like, you have this spear, just go. It seems like it interests you. I already knew I wanted to buy more properties. Yeah. So she's like, just do it. And so I was like, at first I was like, nah, that's not me. I can't do that. I'm too nervous. Or, she's like, well, you already work in HR. You work with people. It's almost the same here. Just a little bit of a different approach. Right. And so I think a month, I sat and thought about it for a month and then I told my boyfriend and he was like, yeah, hell yeah, do it. And he actually was the one that was like, this is the course, sign up.
Here's what you gotta do.
Here's what you gotta do. Because, I was just scared to make that transition.
Yeah, taking that first step's always
it's very nerve-wracking. Yeah. So signed up, took the classes, and then took the test. Well, COVID hit and everything was postponed, and then took the test, took the test twice, but took the test nonetheless.
Got it done.
And got it done. It's just been a crazy ride. I can't believe where I'm at now with this.
Yeah, dude.
It's crazy.
You've helped a ton of people already, in such a short span of time, but then you have also improved on your investment portfolio, right?
Yeah.
you've done some Airbnb stuff and you've done some just property management stuff.
I've been able to try out Airbnb, midterm rentals, and it just has opened a whole new world for me. And I love it. Like, it's so thrilling to me.
Yeah.
Every day I'm like listening to podcasts, or I'm in a couple of women investment groups, and it's, we're sending messages back and forth all day, and then there's like a landlords group that we're in. So it's fun. I mean, it's fun. I love it. I love interacting with my tenants. I'm super fortunate with my tenants.
Good.
I know, there's some not so fun situations, but I have been super blessed, and I hope they never move.
That would be the dream, right?
Yeah.
Dream tenants. Let's go over some of your some of the obstacles that you first faced when you got your license. Like, what were some of the challenges that maybe you weren't expecting, or maybe something that kind of cut you off in this industry that you learned from, or that you got to experience from a different perspective, aside from when you were, just from the buying perspective, right?
One, it's you have to sell yourself and build that trust right away. I mean, these people are trusting you with their livelihood. Like, this is a huge investment, and it's a complete different area of HR. Like, for HR, you come in and it's a bit easier to build trust within an organization because the tasks at least that I've had to do are a little bit simpler, I'd say, in an organization. And it's not like it's not a massive purchase.
That's true.
With employees, I'm able to sit down one-on-one, get to know them, build out their entire, help them build out their career plans and stuff. And with a new buyer, it's building out like what exactly they want to do with their home.
Right.
It's similar, but there's just a higher price tag attached to it. So it's very scary, and I'm not a pushy person at all. So I had to figure out that comfort level of, this is what you say you want to do. This I think is our action plan of attacking it and helping them stick to it. Because, a lot of times you run into some buyers that start to trickle back backwards.
Are they like overloaded with too many options?
So it was just that balance of being, confident in a new industry and not being too pushy, but encouraging them to, go forward with their plan that we've made and we talked about. So that was probably my biggest hurdle. I think I was like bothering you all the time, like, hey, this happened. Or, hey, this happened. And also just like going on showings was scary.
For the first
I was so
time.
scared.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going to happen? Is there going to be a dog or is there going to be a cat? Like, I'm like petrified of cats. So that's like my biggest fear of a cat just waiting for me in a home.
Or like a lockbox not working.
Yeah, or going into a home. Oh my God, the lockbox. Oh my God, I'm sweating, especially in the winter.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm sweating because I don't want to look like a fool. Like,
you got your clients there.
I'm getting it, and it's not opening. I think a couple times I had to call you like, hey, can you do this for me?
Yeah, it sucks.
But yeah, and then, or just going to the wrong house.
Yeah.
That scared the crap out of me.
You never know. You never know what you're going to encounter. Which is crazy. Obviously, when people purchase property, it's like usually their biggest investment that they do, especially first-time home buyers, right? It's the very first purchase that they're making. So a lot of times they're just so unaware of everything that's kind of happening. And I feel like what you do such a good job at explaining and educating that process. I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing that we like to, provide all of our clients is that knowledge and that education. Now, what have you seen from your clients, or the feedback that you've gotten from your clients in terms of that like education? Like, is that something that they go to you for, or are you more of like the advice person when you work with a client? Like, what's kind of like your go-to?
It depends on the buyer. I've been fortunate to work with family members, and just in talking with them and talking them through the process and after, they felt extremely confident in just the one purchase that they were making, and they were kept in the loop everything that was happening. And then
I feel like that's very important for first time buyers too, because there's a lot of kind of time that there's really nothing going on, but you want to make sure that they're at least knowing.
It's that silence that scared them.
Yeah.
They felt that I was in touch with everyone that was involved in the transaction. The attorneys whether they use an attorney that like I would recommend, or they use their own attorney or lender, I would make it a point to reach out to them even before we start looking, or before we're putting in offers, reaching out to both and just introducing myself and just trying to figure out how their working style is. I try to be that middle person for all of them.
That's where before they get to the background comes in.
Yeah. Just because I've noticed that not all lenders and attorneys break things down the way that the buyers are best gonna understand.
That's true, yeah.
So I try to be that middle person, and just in talking with like my family members that I've helped, they've just felt in the loop, like nothing was ever dropped for them.
Nice.
And they weren't left scrambling at the end. With buyers, that came from the team that we were working on that I didn't know.
Yeah.
They felt that, I made it a point to introduce myself and, where I come from and my experience in the space, in the real estate space. And then with every showing, I was looking at the house through their eyes, and educating them on what to look for, as we were going through, each house. And then just after showing, I would be super honest with them. I would be like, this isn't going to work for you. Like,
sometimes
I know you guys love the updates and how it was decorated, but you're telling me that you're going to be adding more people to your family within the next 2-3 years. You want to stay in this house for 5 to 8 years. You're going to be crammed, and they appreciated that. And so, that's the feedback that I've gotten.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, going back to your experience that you mentioned, obviously, that's such a big part of it. And I feel like you've gained a lot in this short time in the industry, but let's talk about kind of like your accomplishments for your investment side, because how many doors do you have now? How many buildings?
So I have 2 multi-units, and together there's 6 doors, if you want to count the basement, 1. It's been great. I have 1 property on the north side, 1 property on the south side.
How is it managing those?
It's at first it was like, oh crap, what did I get myself into? Right. But now that I've got my systems in place, I've got my trusted maintenance and just handy people on both north and south side that I can manage it remotely. I used to live in one I lived in one property, and then when I bought the second one, I moved to that one short period, and then I got pregnant and I moved. I had to move because every apartment that I lived in just wasn't going to accommodate a family, a baby. When I made that move, I was so nervous. I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? I'm going to be 45 minutes away from both properties.
Right.
If anything happens, I can't be there.
I think we're always wired, especially as real estate agents, to think worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that can happen in this situation?
Yeah. So, but I'm thankful where I'm. My HR hat comes in. Okay, what's your process? What's your seamless process for you and for your tenants? To reach out to you, and I always, they'll reach out to me and tell me about little maintenance things that need to be done. Thankfully, nothing's been super urgent, but as soon as they reach out to me, I set, expectations, time frames. I over communicate with them.
Good.
When someone's coming, be available, and tell that maintenance person what else needs to be done. And so far it's worked. It's been great. Knock on wood. Right? Yeah. And I think it's a strong enough system to keep me going. And as I continue to build, of course. As you build, you're going to have to tweak it more and more. Right. And then they were just both of these properties. I stumbled upon these neighborhoods. I was never looking in these neighborhoods when I was searching for units. Yeah. When I first was looking at properties, I was looking in Logan. I was looking. I mean, all I knew was DePaul. I live in Lincoln Park.
Yeah, Lincoln Park.
So I knew like that area, and I'm like, oh, let me try and find a multi-unit and that. No, never gonna happen. I came too late to the game.
Yeah.
And I also didn't want anything like I needed to work on an update. I needed a turnkey because I was new. So I got very fortunate. Found a property and I walked in and I like walked in and my best friend dragged my best friend with me and I was like, this is mine. Like, this is mine.
Nice.
Yeah, that started it. And then over the years, my boyfriend actually bought a multi-unit and he's super handy. So I've seen him completely gut a unit and update it and rehab it all himself with his physical hands.
Wow, nice.
So as we started, dating and continued our partnership, we then decided, let's do this together. You know how to find the properties, you know how to talk to the people. I know how to troubleshoot issues that are happening within a unit. And so we're kind of a team now where his properties are now my properties are his properties. So when maintenance things come in, I'll go to him if it's something that I'm not like super knowledgeable in. So that way when we talk to our maintenance people, we know like this needs to be done. No cutting corners or anything.
Right.
And if we're looking at new properties, he's asking me like what neighborhoods we should be looking at next.
What to consider.
And then my Southside property was not turnkey. Like it needed some modern updates and stuff like that, and just some routine maintenance that was ignored. But I was like way more confident in taking that on the second time around. And I love it, like I'm making the updates and I just see the difference in my tenants. They love being there. They send me they'll just send me thank yous, or I have, on my South Side, I'm lucky. I have 2 tenants that have been there for 5 years. Okay. 5+ years.
Nice. And that's always a tricky situation, especially when you're taking over an existing tenant.
Yes. I was nervous because my first property, it was vacant. I got to pick mine. Yeah. And so on the South Side, I was able to meet them, introduce myself, and then set up like 45 minutes with them to walk through their units outside of the inspection and just tell me about your property. You've been here longer. Yeah. What's working, what's not working. And they appreciated that. Another tenant, he sends me pictures of things that are happening in the neighborhood. And if there's trash in the neighborhood, he's like, this is bringing our property value down. And I'm like, it is. Like, let's get on this. They're calling aldermen, they're calling the city, to fix things. And it's great. Like, I love it. If I hadn't gotten pregnant, I probably would be in the Southside property longer. But yeah, it's been great. I was able to experiment with Airbnb.
Yeah, how did that go, actually? I'm curious. Because I know you did it for quite some time. But
yeah, I did it for about 8-9 months. Okay. And it went great.
How was the process to even start? Like, because I know Chicago has some very strict rules when it comes to short-term rentals and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's pretty laid out in the process. You got to go to the city, register. It has to be your residence in the city of Chicago. So
you have to live in the property.
You have to live in the property. If you don't, I think there's you have to appeal it, and then some people even get attorneys and stuff like that, and those are super special occasions. Yeah. But at the time frame that I came in, that's when the city was really cracking down.
Gotcha.
So thankfully, I lived in the property, and I was able to get the permit and everything. As soon as the permit was probably the longest part of it. Okay. I bought furniture off of Facebook Marketplace and furnished it, and I got it listed, and immediately I got it listed right around the New Year, Christmas to New Year time frame. Okay. And immediately I got a New Year's booking. Nice. And prior to starting though, I will say I joined a lot of groups. I started listening to podcasts. Yeah. And getting the do's and don'ts that people who have been doing this for years. And I decided that I'm only accepting out-of-state guests. Yes. Yeah. Not doing anyone in the Chicagoland area, just to avoid parties and stuff like that. Right. I set my property up with cameras just because I wasn't always going to be there, and I have long-term tenants there too. Right. True. You want to make sure the place is safe for them too. I want to make sure it's safe for everyone. Yeah. And it took off. Weekends were great.
Okay.
You know, it's a city. I'm close to my property is close to CTA. It's about 15 minutes from downtown. And people who are coming to Chicago don't know Chicago. So
true.
They're booking on the south side, but they see on the map it's close to downtown where people want to be. Right. So at first, I was scared about that. I was like, I don't think people are going to, they're going to want to cancel. They're going to want to, change things. And no, I had no issues. I had, guests that were just super straight up when they were asking, to reserve. Just like, hey, I'm going to have 2 other guests with me visiting during the day, but they're going to leave at night. Very honest. Good, I did not have a horrible experience. The only, horrible experience, I guess, was not even horrible, was guests just overstaying. They needed to check out by a certain time. And cleaners are walking in and, they're still here.
Gotcha.
But that's about it.
Okay.
So I'm
nothing,
on that.
nothing crazy.
Nothing too crazy.
That's
nothing was
bad.
damaged. Nothing was taken. Nothing was burned or nothing. So weekends were great for me. Weekdays are a little bit slower.
Right.
But it worked out great. But it just, I'm going to be away.
Right.
And the cleaning fees were a bit much for me. And
then the fees that Airbnb charges or just
my cleaning company, because my property was just very big. It was a very big unit. So my cleaning fees were pretty high, which I understood and I respected. Some days, if it were a larger group staying, I would get the cleaning company. But if it were a smaller group, I would go in and clean it myself.
Gotcha.
But with me now, how pregnant, I can't come, I can't clean.
Exactly, yeah.
And I can't come to the city that often. So we made the decision to shut it down. And we're going to do midterm rentals now instead.
Okay. Now, what are those for people that don't?
So that's anywhere of a month to 3 months.
Okay.
And I
typically that's what more travel nurses or
business people. My property is close to the hospital, the medical district. It's about 15 minutes away, but it's 5 minutes away from University of Chicago Medicine.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think there's a children's hospital over there.
Nice.
So super close. So I target travel nurses, but also because the universities like UIC and University of Chicago, they get a lot of foreign students that are just here for a semester or a quarter.
Yeah.
I've gotten some inquiries from students. So
what's the benefit of that instead of getting a long term, a year or 2-year leases on a tenant?
Yeah.
You can charge more, right? I assume.
I do because I furnish it, and all the utilities are covered. So, my midterm rental, it's a 1-bedroom, but it could accommodate 4 people, if they decide to have guests.
Mm-hmm.
And regular rent in the area goes for $1,000 to $1,100, no utilities.
Right.
But for travel nurses and business, and just because I furnish it and cover everything, I'm able to get about $1,700 to $1,800.
That's a pretty significant difference. Yeah,
very big difference.
Okay.
My first midterm renter is starting in September because we took it off the market. We changed the decor a little bit.
Yeah.
And my first midterm will come in September.
Nice.
And they'll start. They're a grad student at the med school, U of C. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they're there for 2 months. And then, once they leave, then it kind of just lines up.
Yeah.
Once they're ready to go, I'm already getting messages from travel nurses that are getting contracts a little bit further out. Or extending, and they want a change of scenery.
Oh, it sounds like it would make perfect sense for them. Now, do you plan on scaling? Do you guys plan on buying more buildings? What's your kind of long-term plan with real estate?
Definitely want more buildings. I'm addicted.
You want to stay in Chicago with those buildings, or are you open to
I'm open to out of state.
Okay.
We have close family friend who's in Ohio and Columbus, and he's got the Ohio State campus cornered. He has multiple properties, and we've just been talking about possibly getting more. He gets a ton of off-market deals. So we've been talking about expanding there. Working together. For 12 plus units.
Yeah.
And then just looking at some other markets. We're looking at Indiana. We were looking at Texas, but that San Antonio area. And then we're looking at possibly like military bases, the area.
Okay.
Yeah, we're open. It's just we're gonna get through this new addition to our family.
The changes that are coming.
We're gonna keep it going. It's something that we're both, myself and my partner, are very passionate in, and we want to continue and grow. I want to get into some flips too.
Okay.
But that one we want to.
It's a whole other animal.
It's a whole other animal. Yeah. So we'll learn as much as we can. We'll build a team.
Yeah.
And then we'll tackle it. We're very, very strategic about things. We don't just want to jump into it just to jump into it.
Right. It has to make sense, obviously. Yeah. I guess we'll leave it with one final question for you is, what's your driving force? Like, what motivates you to keep doing what you're doing?
Ooh, what does? Helping people understand that we have more options than what we thought we had. I, younger, never thought that I would own anything, let alone rent by myself. I thought I was going to have a roommate for life. And I'd go from living with my parents to dorming, college, getting roommates, and then, moving in with a guy.
Right.
Never by myself. So, and then just being, of Hispanic descent, just not necessarily knowing my options and the power that I had with my credit score and making a salary.
The leverage that comes with that, yeah.
So what drives me is just educating others, knowing that it's possible, meeting other women and giving them that confidence that they could do this by themselves if they wanted to do it.
And you have helped a few of them do that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like to add them. I love when we buy, they buy their property and then I add them to our lady landlords group. It's
nice.
Showing them, giving them the tools that there is another option for us. We can own multiple properties. We can have our one dream home if that's just what they want.
Right.
And it doesn't have to cost us, an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
There's smart ways to go about it. And especially right now, I've talked to a couple buyers that are the rates are really high. I think I'm going to take a step back.
Yeah.
And, they're in the position to still buy. But I heard this a while ago and it stuck with me. And the way I, explained to them is marry the home, date the rate, fall in love with the house. If this is the house that you see yourselves 5 to 10 years, this is it for you. Stick with it. We get the rate that we get, but as soon as the rates drop, we refinance. Yeah. And then this is, then I show them numbers of potentially what, the future projected rates are going to be and how it would affect that mortgage payment. Right. And it helps them. So, yeah, I think it's just... I just love working with people. I just love showing them new ways and that things are possible, that we don't have to do it like our parents did it. And I don't, like myself, my goal is to eventually step away from my W-2 job. Yeah. Because I still do my W-2 and I do real estate as part-time. So we have those options if we want to take that path. So
financial freedom is a real thing. And there's so many opportunities now that it's just a matter of taking advantage of what's out there.
Yeah, and it's never discussed in our home.
It's
so,
it's something that...
my stepdad always said, tienes que trabajar, mija, duro, and you'll have a good life. And it's I'm gonna work hard my whole life.
Right. No,
I gotta work smarter, not harder.
Smarter, exactly. That's
so.
That is the actual key,
Yeah. So.
Doing a little bit of both. Well, I mean, you guys have done awesome, and I'm sure your real estate portfolio is only just beginning, so I'm sure that's gonna keep blowing up. Keep doing what you do, man. I know every client that works with you has nothing but positive things to say, so that's always it's good to hear that we're instilling the right kind of the right education, the right values, and providing them with the best service that we possibly can. At the end of the day, that's what matters. So
exactly.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you guys for listening to another episode, and stay tuned for the next one. See you guys. Peace.